You have mastered languages throughout your career. Do you think that Americans need to know more foreign languages?
I do. I don't think Americans need to know gazillions of foreign languages, but I do think that Americans ought to be moving to a place where they would routinely speak one foreign language reasonably decently. I had a head start. My mother was Swedish. We spoke Swedish at home. When I was 14, my parents sent me to school in France. So by the time I was 15, I was fluent in 3 languages. And once you've reached that point, the next ones aren't so hard. But what I really think we ought to be doing, and I think some communities in this country do it, is trying to turn the foreign language skills of our immigrant communities into an asset for them and for the United States. They need to learn English, no question about it, by whatever means, ESL, bilingual, I'm not a teacher, that's not my field. And they need to learn it early because it's easier when you're young. But if school systems can provide support at the middle school and high school level for kids who spoke Spanish or French or something at home so that they graduate from high school and they can read Shakespeare and they can read Cervantes and they can write a business letter in Spanish and English, think about what that does for the U.S. workforce.
Are you aware of any school systems that are taking advantage of?
I think in Miami there's been some effort to do this, and that would be a natural place because they've got so many Spanish speakers. Don't get me wrong, the English is a very important foundation, and you don't want to deprive them of that. The kids need that. I'm focusing on what the kids are going to need, but I also see this as what our society is going to need.
Generally, how will their world be different than the one we know today?
For one thing, telecommunications will be everywhere, even more so than they are now. For another, and this is already happening, they are going to know people who have a connection to a lot more countries than you and I knew when we were growing up. When I went to college in the 1960s, the history major was entirely Europe and the United States. The political science major was sort of 80% US and 20% Europe. Nowadays, you can't do that. You've got Asia, you've got Latin America, you've got Africa. These are places you have to learn about. I think that movement is going to intensify.